This definitely is not one of my favorite topics, but still, I'll say my piece. I was once a proud fan of the MCU, but I was repulsed by Disney's prioritization of the message over cinema quality in the last few years. Despite what executives say over there, it is absolutely possible to produce a cinematic depiction which focuses on minority social issues while still being good and watchable. Blue Eye Samurai is the most absolute evidence of this idea. Hey everyone, welcome to Aniprop, let's get into it. The first pitfall that Blue Eye Samurai avoids, and where Disney should take notes, is the believability of the protagonist and her struggle. Mizu is a half-white female warrior living towards the end of the Edo period in Japan. What this time period means for her is that it's a bad time to be both a female warrior and a mixed-race Japanese citizen, which she happens to be both. This is sensible storycraft because her struggles are relevant and believable based on the setting alone. They don't feel forced for the purpose of the message. The way they even go about introducing and displaying the prejudice against her is handled very well and realistically when juxtaposed against a show like She-Hulk. Even for someone with no understanding of the historical context, the show is written such that the prejudice is demonstrated to us, the viewers, believably. The other pitfall Blue Eye Samurai avoids is the unrealistic and unlikable character build-up or the lack thereof. Mizu is a very likable character. She makes some bad decisions, but the audience can see how she came to make them. Also, unlike the Disney Marvel female leads, we see her endure the hero's journey, earning her competence with the sword. One of the big criticisms of She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, and even Rey from Star Wars is that they just became strong because the story demanded it. Mizu, on the other hand, is just as powerful as the Disney characters in the context of her own story. She achieved this through singularity of focus, years of training, and a caring master. She even endured arcs where love was gained and lost, and finally, she isn't immune to damage and defeat in a way that diminishes the audience's viewing pleasure, as there is always risk and jeopardy in her battles. That carries us into the other issue Blue Eye Samurai avoids. In contrast to the MCU films, there is absolutely no jeopardy in observing a Captain Marvel or her cohorts fight. Because the narrative is so heavily geared towards the message, the writers are unable to display their purely symbolic characters as ever weak, injured, or defeated, because that would mean their representation is being defeated. What this means is that these aren't actually characters, but instead embodied propaganda. This is not the case for Mizu. Mizu gets injured in most battles. She takes time to overcome her injuries as well, sometimes down for a week or more as she recovers. She makes numerous mistakes and learns from them. She is human and very relatable, while still being powerful in the context of the story. It is not hyperbolic to say that we love her, or at least are proud of her by the end of season 1. Interestingly too, besides the inherent themes that she faces as a result of her gender and race, she faces a myriad of other thematic issues, because Michael Green, the writer, is not focused on the message. He allows the character to have other issues. The one I liked the most was the classic Spider-Man theme. With great power comes great responsibility. Mizu was never formally trained under a lord, therefore she is not a samurai. Because she is so skilled in the use of the blade, the characters around her infer the expectations of a samurai upon her, expecting her to behave honorably and noble. I find this dynamic interesting because we know her rough upbringing, and having observed her backstory, it seems almost ridiculous to me that anyone would expect her to behave in the same way as a pampered lord samurai. She often reminds people that she is no samurai, with observable frustration. The other interesting theme the story goes into is that of revenge, what it does to a soul, and if it's really worth it. It wouldn't be a proper Edo period drama without a proper tale of revenge. This time period and culture lends itself well to this type of story, and I think the writing capitalized on the setting very well. Beyond Mizu, we have the sword versus gun story and the European invasion at the end of the shogunate. This context has been covered extensively in other shows like Rurouni Kenshin and The Last Samurai. It's pretty much the same here. And that story acts as a backdrop for our main Mizu story. In this way, Blue Eye Samurai is superior to all the MCU tales as well. The total story and universe doesn't orbit our main character only. The writing, in my opinion, takes advantage of tropes because of how well the European invasion of Japan is documented. The writing doesn't spend copious amount of time on setting up this context, but instead focuses more on the specific character studies. What the recent Disney films also failed to do is make compelling support characters. Everything is so centered around the main feminist that it makes the side characters look lame, even intentionally so. Characters, especially main characters, are made to look exceedingly foolish to elevate the perceptions of competence of the protagonist. Unfortunately, this can break immersion, as at times the side men are made to look so foolish and incompetent that it becomes unbelievable. What's worse is that in some cases, even established well-loved characters like the Hulk are made to look unrealistically stupid and useless to elevate the woman of the story. Blue Eye Samurai does the opposite. With compelling and lovable side characters, Ringo, Taigin, and Princess Akemi get the most screen time, and they are well written with their own struggles and motivations. Their depth of character enhances the interactions with the protagonist. Even just the reoccurring characters are pretty fleshed out. The Swordmaker, Madame Kaji, and Seki are more developed than anything I have seen from Disney lately. To no one's surprise, Netflix has already renewed Blue Eye Samurai for a second season. The second season seems like it will dive deeper into the revenge plotline of the series. It looks like it will be good and at the very least outperform anything Disney has released in recent times. Thanks for watching today. Like and subscribe, and see you next time.